Welcome back to the Fab Suite Production Control video training series. This is the third of 3 videos in which we will take an in-depth look at the functionality of Fab Suite's Production Control module. This video will cover intermediate shipping and piece tracking. Let's get started. We'll begin by opening the program and going back into the Fab Suite test job we've been using in the previous production control videos. In the first training video, we covered setting up the company standards, adding a new job, manually inputting data, importing data from a file, editing that data, sequencing it, and finally exporting the data. In the second video, we covered basic combining runs, reports, load tracking, and shipping material to the job site. Fab Suite also gives you the capability to add intermediate shipping for pieces that might have to be sent out for galvanizing, sandblasting, or painting before being shipped to the job site. Before we can do this, we need to add the intermediate shipping field to our input fields for this job. From the Maintenance menu, we'll select Production Control, and then Edit Input Fields. Click the Edit Types button. Select Intermediate Shipping and move it over to the Included side. We'll click Save, exit out of the job window, and reopen it to refresh the screen. We now have the intermediate shipping field available. The drop-down list for this field includes the names of any contacts in your address book that are in either the coding or subcontractor category. Under Trucks in the category tree, click in the blank area next to the first row of dots. This will give you a list of all items that have not yet been loaded onto a truck. Let's select Main Mark 400 VB3 and choose Acme Services from the Intermediate Shipping drop-down list. We'll click the Edit button to commit our change. Notice now that in addition to the main piece, all accessory pieces have been marked for intermediate shipping to Acme. When you click on one of the accessory pieces, the intermediate shipping field will show Acme Services grayed out. This is because they are tied to the main piece. As we have set this up now, where the main piece goes, the accessory pieces follow. There is a way to separate the accessory pieces from the main mark, and we will cover that a little later in this video. To load these pieces to be sent to Acme, we'll again choose Load Tracking from the Production Control drop-down menu. But this time, in the upper left corner of the Trucks window, we'll select Acme Services from the Destination drop-down list. Any companies that have been set up in the intermediate shipping field will be available in this drop-down list. If none have been set up, the only option that will appear here is the job site. We need to add a truck to go to Acme, so we'll click the New button. Alternately, you can hit the Shift and F1 keys simultaneously. The truck number defaults to 5, as it is the next available load number for this job. We'll enter a trailer number and Fab Suite as the carrier. Let's say this is a smaller truck, so we'll change the capacity to 5,000 pounds. If you want the material to come back to the shop before getting shipped to the job site, place a checkmark in the To Be Returned box. We'll leave it unchecked, and click the Add button to commit our changes. The truck, along with the associated trailer and carrier information, will appear in the display area. Now, when we select Batch Insert from the truck's drop-down menu, our 400VB3 mark shows as available for shipping to Acme. Notice that the only truck that is available from the drop-down list is number 5, as this is the only truck we set up for handling loads to Acme services. We'll select truck number 5. Move the mark over to the right side and click the Save button. Now, if you didn't previously mark this item to be returned, you have the opportunity to do so again now. Let's mark it to be returned. Put a check mark in the Shipped box and enter a shipping date. Clicking on the top Text button allows you to enter text that will appear on the bill of lading. The Date Ready field allows you to enter a date that the items are expected to be finished. We'll enter a date and click the Edit button to commit our changes. Let's take a look at the shipping ticket. You will see that only this main piece is listed. The weight includes all accessory items as well, but only the main piece is listed as a line item. Note also that when we go back into the production control job and select truck number 5 in the category tree, the main mark as well as all the accessory pieces show unassigned, 5 in the trucks column. This is because this assembly was marked to return to the shop after the intermediate shipping to Acme services. Had we not marked it for return, only the number 5 would appear in the trucks column. Now let's say this item has been returned to us. In the Trucks window for truck number 5, we'll click on the Return Items button. This brings up the Load Tracking Return Items window. Notice that the piece we sent to Acme is automatically displayed in the Included side. Click OK, and that item will now show in the display area as returned. In the event you erroneously marked an item as returned, you may undo this by clicking on the Unreturn Items button, selecting the desired item, and hitting the Save button. Notice now that this item shows in the display area as not yet returned. When an item such as this is out to a subcontractor, it will not be available to ship to the job site either from the main mark drop-down list or the batch insert function until it has been marked as returned. This is a safeguard built into FabSuite. A piece can only be one place at a time. The area on the far right of the Trucks window simply provides detail about the date and quantity loaded for the item that is highlighted in the center section, as well as an asterisk if the item has shipped. One of the reports that you will find helpful for monitoring the status of items due to be returned is the Return Status by Assembly report. Let's take a look at it. This report will show any companies that have been set up for intermediate shipping in the current job. It lists the quantity, mark, sequence, shape, and weight, and indicates if the piece has been returned or still remains to be returned. When there are multiple pieces, this report will also give you a summary of all items sent to each company. While we have found that most fabricators prefer to keep assemblies together when shipping, A few prefer having the capability of shipping the main piece separate from the accessory pieces. In order to do this, we need to add the accessory load tracking field to our input fields. Just as we did to add the intermediate shipping field, we need to go to the Maintenance menu, select Production Control, and then select Edit Input Fields. Click the Edit Types button. This time, we'll select Accessory Load Tracking and move it over to the Included side. Let's bring over Accessory Piece Tracking while we're at it, as we will need this field shortly. We'll click Save, exit out of the job window, and reopen it to refresh the screen. Notice that we now have a load tracking field in which a checkmark can be placed. When this box is checked, you have the ability to separate the main piece from the assembly pieces when loading trucks. This can be beneficial if you need to send part of an assembly out for sandblasting, for example. Let's take a look at how this works. Let's select Main Mark 400 VB2, Piece Mark P24. Put a checkmark in the Load Tracking field and select Sam's Sandblasting in the Intermediate Shipping field. We'll click the Edit button to commit our changes. Now let's select Load Tracking from the Production Control drop-down menu and select Sam's Sandblasting from the Destination drop-down list. We don't have any trucks here, so let's quickly add truck number 6. Clicking on the Batch Insert tab in the drop-down list, you will see that the only option appearing is Mark 400 VB2, and that Piece Mark P24 automatically populates in the Piece Mark field. There are 2 of these plates, so we'll enter 2 in the Quantity field and click Save. We are now able to send just these subpieces to Sam's for sandblasting. Going back into our production control job, note that Main Mark 402 VB1 also has a piece mark of P24, and now also has the Load Tracking field checked. It was not, however, available to load on the truck to Sam's sandblasting because we did not select a company in the Intermediate Shipping field. Let's add that now, and then add that piece to be shipped to Sam's as well. In order to add this now, we must click on the Insert Mode button, or hit F1, and then select Main Mark 402 VB1 and Piece Mark P24 from the drop-down lists. Enter a quantity of 2 and hit the Save button. Now you will see that both main marks, along with Piece Mark P24, appear in the display area. Let's mark this shipment to be shipped, returned, and enter a shipping date. Click the Edit button to commit these changes, and close out of the Trucks window. Now, we covered a variety of shipping reports in the second production control training video. Once items have shipped, You will find the master shipping list to be very helpful. Let's take a look at that now by selecting Reports from the Production Control drop-down menu or hitting Ctrl-R on your keyboard. We'll leave everything unfiltered and click the Make Report button. Let's select Master Shipping List in the Reports Progress window and hit the View button. This report tells us that load number 5 has shipped to Acme Services, load number 6 has shipped to Sam's Sandblasting, and both loads will be returned to our shop. In addition, loads 1 and 2 have been shipped to the job site. To see more detail, let's go back to the Report Progress window and select Master Shipping List with Pieces. This report gives you the same information as the Master Shipping List, but also itemizes all the piece marks as well. Now we're going to move on and discuss the piece tracking functionality within FabSuite. The purpose of piece tracking is to monitor the flow as pieces move through the fabrication process in your shop. This allows you to determine, for example, if a piece is being cut, welded, painted, or in process at any other station you have set up in FabSuite. The first step in being able to track pieces through your shop is to set up the stations you wish to track. From the Maintenance menu, select Production Control, and then select Station and Route Setup. This brings up the Station and Route Setup window. This window will be blank when you buy the program. Notice that you have different sizes of blocks from which to choose when setting up your stations. Let's create our first station by clicking the Add button and then clicking on the small station size box. Let's place this station at the top center part of the shop floor window by clicking in that area. This will bring up the Station Details window. The station number defaults to 1. Let's enter Cutting Saw as a description, and then click the Save button. Station 1, along with its description, now appears in the stations list, and our shop floor diagram has begun. Let's add a welding fit-up station next. And then a quality control station. Let's make painting our last station for this example. There is no limit to the number of stations that you can establish. You could, for example, set up stations for punching, drilling, bending, or any other process specific to your shop. In addition, these stations can be inside or outside of your shop. You could even add a station for outside fabrication if you regularly subcontract portions of a job. To move a station, simply highlight it by clicking on it, click the Move button, and click the area to which you wish to move the station. To delete a station, click on the desired station, click the Delete button, and confirm that you want to delete it. In the event that you need to edit the name or number of a station, highlight that station and click the Edit button. The Station Detail window will appear, in which you can edit the information. Now that we have our stations set up, it's time to add some routes. A route includes the various stations that a particular piece will go through during the fabrication process before it is completed. Multiple routes can be set up to accommodate the different processes that pieces need to go through. Let's set up a couple of routes. Click the New button under Routes and enter 1 in the route field. We'll give this first route a description of Typical Painted. Click on the Add button next to the Stations in Route window. The Cutting Saw station will then be displayed as the starting point in this route. Click the Add button next to the Stations in Route window again, and this time click Station 2 in the shop floor window. A line will connect the two stations and display Welding Fit-Up as the next station in the route. Let's add Stations 3 and 4 in the same way. And then click the Add button below the Routes window. This adds the typical painted route as Route 1 and displays it in the Routes window. Let's create a second route called Typical NP for those pieces that do not require paint. For this route, we only need to add the first 3 stations. As with stations, there is no limit to the number of routes that you can set up. Now that we have established our routes, let's assign some routes to our steel. Let's open CIS2 Sample 2 job, since we haven't marked anything shipped yet in that job. In this job, we have 3 different finishes. Some of the pieces are to be painted, some of them are to be left unpainted, and the remaining will be galvanized. Let's use the Global Edit feature to select all pieces to be painted and assign them to Route 1. From the Production Control drop-down menu, select Global Edit. Click the Edit button next to the Finish field. Move Galvanized and Unpainted over to the Not Included side, and click OK. Hit F4 or click OK in the Global Edit filter window. Place a check mark in the box next to the Route field and select 1 from the drop-down list. Click OK or hit F4. And all the items to be painted have now been added to Route 1. Let's do another global edit to assign all the unpainted and galvanized pieces to Route 2, since none of these pieces have to go through the painting process. It's also a good idea to add the route field to your display screen if it's not already there, so that you can quickly see at a glance that all pieces have been assigned to a route. To add it, go to the Maintenance drop-down menu, select Production Control, and then select Edit Display Fields. Click the Edit Types button and move Route over to the included side. Click the Save button or hit F4 on your keyboard and close out of the Edit Display Field window. Refresh your job screen by closing out of the job and opening it again. The Route field will now appear in your display window. Once we have created our stations and assigned routes, a helpful report to run is the Shop Station Completion List. Let's take a look at that right now. This report lists out all the pieces that are to pass through each station, along with blank lines for the completion date and the hours to complete the item. There are page breaks between stations, so that they can be given to shop personnel to fill out as items are finished. At the end of the day, this information can then be input into production control to keep the job up to date. This report prints out in the same order that these pieces appear in the piece tracking, so that entering this data can be done very quickly and efficiently. After the data is entered, a new shop station completion list can be printed out and distributed for the following day's activity. Let's move on with our job now and enter some completion information. From the Production Control drop-down menu, select Piece Tracking. This brings up the Piece Tracking window. Clicking on the Station drop-down arrow will display the stations that we set up. Let's select Cutting Saw. The main mark drop-down list will contain all the pieces that have been marked to go through this station. Let's select Mark 100B1. Notice that next to the quantity field, it indicates that there are 4 pieces that match the criteria we have selected. Let's say that only 2 of them are getting cut right now. So we'll enter 2 here and tab to the next field. You must enter a name in the ID field. The pull-down menu is populated with the names of the users that have been set up in the system. You can either select a name from the list, or type the first few letters until the name appears in the field. We'll enter Barney. The Date Completed field defaults to the current date, but can be changed to a past or future date if desired. The Hours field can be modified as necessary. We'll leave it as is. The Batch ID field is optional. Click Save, or hit F4, and the data will appear in the display area. Alright, that is how you can manually enter this information. Like other functions within FabSuite, you also have the ability to enter this data more efficiently with the Batch Insert function. Let's go through that process right now. Click on the Batch Insert button in the bottom left corner of the Piece Tracking window. This brings up the Piece Tracking Batch Insert window. You may select a sequence if desired, as well as the station for which you wish to enter data. Let's select the Cutting Saw station from the Station drop-down list. The items that appear in the list on the left are all the pieces that have not yet gone through the Cutting Saw station. This list will include pieces that have been previously assigned to go through this station, as well as pieces that have not yet been assigned to any route. Highlight the pieces you wish to include, and click on the right pointing arrow to move them to the right window. Let's select Mark 100B1 through 101B5. The ID field defaults to Barney's name, as we selected him when entering the previous data. Again, you have the option to adjust the hours and enter a batch ID. Click the Save button, and this data now displays in the Piece Tracking window. You can see that this is a much quicker way to enter the data. Let's click on the Batch Insert button again, and enter a few more items as having been cut yesterday. Now let's mark some items as having gone through the welding fit-up station. We'll click on Batch Insert again. But this time we'll select Welding Fit-up from the station drop-down list. Let's select J12 through J70 and move them over. Let's enter Fred as the ID name and today's date. Now when we click Save, you will see that these items appear in the piece tracking window twice. The first entry for each mark shows that it went through the cutting saw station on April 14th and was cut by Barney. The next line indicates that it went through the welding fit-up station on April 15th, and the work was performed by Fred. Now all of this information that is displayed assumes that the entire assembly follows the main mark. If you wish to track assembly pieces individually, this can be done by entering a check mark in the Piece Tracking field for the desired pieces in the Production Control job window. Let's look at an example by selecting all the items in Drawing 200, doing a global edit selected on all items, and mark the Piece Tracking field. Now when we go back into Piece Tracking and select Main Mark 200C1, we will also have the ability to select one of the accessory pieces in the Piece Mark field. Let's select W19. Enter a quantity of 1 and click the Save button. You will see that this piece mark has now been added to the display list. Now, as we pointed out in the second production control training video, if one user is in load tracking or piece tracking, other users will be able to be in the job to view data and reports, but will not be able to make any changes. Just as you can load pieces through the production shipping entry function that we showed in that video, so you can enter piece tracking information. Using this method allows other users to be making changes within a production control job while you are entering piece tracking information. Let's take a look at that right now. This function can be accessed from inside any job by selecting Production Shipping Entry from the Production Control drop-down menu. It can also be accessed from the Maintenance drop-down menu by selecting Production Control and then selecting Production Shipping Entry at the bottom of the drop-down list. This brings up the Production Shipping Entry window. While you can enter load tracking and piece tracking data within this window, there is no batch insert functionality here. Previously, we used the Load Tracking tab. This time we'll select the Piece Tracking tab. In this window, you have the option to enter piece tracking information for all active jobs in FabSuite. These jobs appear in the job number pull-down list. We'll select our CIS2 Sample 2 job. All main marks will appear in the Main Mark drop-down list. Let's select Main Mark J12. Choose the Cutting station and enter a quantity of 1. If you attempt to add a main mark to a station to which it is not assigned, or has already been through, you will receive an invalid quantity error message when you click the Add button as you see here. This is a safeguard that is built into the system so that you do not assign the same piece twice. Let's try again. but this time we'll select Quality Control as the station. Now when we click the Add button, this piece will be added to the display at the bottom of the window. Keep in mind that unless a checkmark is placed in the piece tracking field in the job window, all accessory pieces follow the main piece. When this checkmark exists, you may enter these pieces by first selecting the main mark and then typing in the piece mark in the piece mark field, or selecting it from the drop-down list. You also have the ability to delete pieces by selecting Delete from the Action drop-down list. FabSuite also has the ability to interface with barcoding technology, in which this data will be automatically imported when material is scanned as it goes through the various stations. More detail is covered on this subject in a separate training video on barcoding. Alright, now that we have entered some piece tracking data, let's look at some of the reports that are available to you. Let's close out of the piece tracking window and select Reports from the Production Control drop-down menu. You may also hit Ctrl-R on your keyboard to open the Report Filter window. Let's leave everything unfiltered and hit the Make Reports button. Any report name with the word Station in it has to do with piece tracking reports. You will see that there are several of them. Let's select the All Stations Completed and Remaining with Graphs button. You'll see Mark 100B1 with a quantity of 4, and all 4 have gone through the cutting station. Going to the last page of the report, you will see that Mark J70 has gone through both the cutting and welding fit-up stations, but has not gone through quality control. The bar graph helps to give you a quick visual on the progress of the job. The completed stations detail report does not include the graph, but gives you a little more detail on each completed piece. For Mark 100B1, we can see that Barney cut 4 pieces on April 30th. The Station Remaining Only report gives you an itemized list by station of the remaining pieces that need to go through each station. This report will only list the main marks, unless you have checked the piece tracking field as we did for the 200 series of marks. Notice that piece 200C1 not only shows the main piece, but also lists out the flat bar and plate material as well. The All Stations Remaining Only report gives the same information, but summarizes it by each individual piece. This report lists out the remaining stations that each piece has yet to go through in the fabrication process. There is also a station summary report that you will find very helpful. This report lists the total pieces that must go through each station, along with the number and weight of completed items and the number and weight of remaining items. In addition, it gives you a percentage of completion for each station, as well as the overall percentage of completion. This information can be provided to your accounting department and is very useful for determining progress billings. Another very helpful FabSuite feature is the production status information. This is a colorized visual aid accessed by selecting Production Status from the Production Control drop-down menu. This brings up the selection window, in which you can choose to view data by assembly, drawing, sequence, or lot number. Let's select sequence. The information displayed gives a quick color-coded summary of the progress of this job based on the stations that you established sorted by sequence. You will see a total number of pieces in each sequence, along with the number of pieces that need to go through each station, and the quantity already completed. Items in progress appear in yellow, while items not yet completed appear in red. This also displays the number of items that are at the job site and the shipping status. To view the information by assembly, select By Assembly in the Type drop-down list and click the Update button. This gives more detailed information by main mark and shows completed items in green, in-progress items in yellow, and those items not completed in red. To view information by drawing number, select Drawing from the Type drop-down list and click the Update button. Likewise, information can be sorted and viewed by lot number. In addition, you may click on any of the headers in the production status window to sort data by that header. The buttons across the top of the production status window allow you to filter data further by drawing number, sequence, and lot number. If, for example, you wish to see the status of assemblies on drawings J12 through J70, first select By Assembly in the Type drop-down list. Click on the Drawing Filter button and keep only those drawings in the included side. Click OK, and then click the Update button in the upper right corner of the production status window. You will now see only those assemblies on the requested drawings. The other filter buttons function in the same manner. Another nice feature about this window is that it will continue to update itself, even when you have it open, as new data is entered into the production control job. This applies to information that is manually entered or scanned in through barcoding. FabSuite also has the ability to export CIS2 data back to the model. Let's go back into our original CIS2 sample job to show this functionality. In order to export back into a CIS2 model, the job must originally have been imported from a CIS2 file. Remember that the CIS2 sample2 job on which we have been working was copied from the CIS2 sample job and not imported directly into FabSuite. It cannot, therefore, be exported back. Now that we are back in the original imported CIS2 sample job, from the Production Control drop-down menu, select Export CIS2 Model. This brings up a Save As window, in which the file name will default to the job name, followed by a date and timestamp. It will be saved to the export directory you specified when setting up default directories. This was covered in the very first startup and maintenance training video. Let's go ahead and click the Save button. The job is now being exported, and you will receive a confirmation message when it is complete. Click OK in the message box. you must have a VRML viewer installed on your computer in order to view the model. Notice that FabSuite has determined that this computer does not yet have the viewer installed, and gives you the option to do so at this point. Let's click the Download VRML Viewer button. This takes you to a site from which you can download the free Cosmo Player plugin. We'll click on the New Installer for Internet Explorer, Firefox, and Opera, and then click on the Cosmo Player zip file. We'll save the file to the desktop and click Open when the download is complete. We'll accept the license agreement and select our browser in the Installation Options window. Close the window once you see that it has completed. Now, back in our CIS2 export window, we'll click the Check button and see that Cosmo Player is listed as the currently installed VRML viewer. Let's select Station Cutting Saw from the drop-down list as the property to color the model with. Click the View Model button. If you get an error message that the renderer cannot be opened, select the Direct Renderer option. The model will then be rendered showing the 3D model and displaying different colors for the different dates that pieces went through the cutting station. This model can be rotated so that you can view the pieces from different angles. You also have the ability to view a 3D model of what has shipped to the job site. To display this, in the CIS2 export window, select Shipped from the drop-down list. The 3D model will render, showing in different colors the dates that pieces have shipped to the job site. Items that have not yet shipped will show in gray. This too can be rotated to get a different perspective and provides an additional visual aid for viewing the status of a job. One last item to cover that some FabSuite users find very valuable is the ability to create pay categories. This functionality can be used for unit price contracts, such as time and material projects. The unit price per pound established includes everything that is necessary to complete the contract, such as labor, material, sandblasting, painting, and delivery. Let's create some sample categories by going to the Maintenance menu, selecting Production Control, and then selecting Company Standards. Click on the Pay Categories button in the Company Standards window. This brings up the Pay Categories window. We'll click the New button. Enter 1 as the category number and give it a description of very light. For the lower bound unit weight, we'll enter 1 and enter $175 for the unit price per hundredweight, and then click the Add button. Let's add Category 2 as light, with a lower bound weight of 16 and a unit price of $135. Category 3 as medium, with a lower bound weight of 26 and a unit price of $125. Category 4 as heavy, with a lower bound weight of 51 at a unit price of $115. And then Category 5 as extra heavy, with a lower bound weight of 101 and a unit price of $105. Now let's add a few additional categories that will all have a lower bound weight of 0. Category 6 will be miscellaneous, with a unit price of $185 per hundredweight. Category 7 for stair stringers, with a price of $175. Category 8 for ladders, with a price of $275. Category 9 for caged ladders, with a price of $285. Category 10 for flat handrail, with a price of $275. And finally, Category 11 for sloped handrail, with a price of $285 per hundredweight. We then need to click the Save button in the Company Standards window in order to commit these changes. Remember that by entering these pay categories here through the Maintenance menu, they will be available as the default when creating new jobs. They may also be added to existing jobs by highlighting the job in the Select Production Control Job window and clicking the Edit button or hitting F4 on your keyboard. Then click on the Pay Categories button in the Job Edit window and enter your categories as we have just done. After your pay categories have been created, you need to make sure the Pay Categories field is added to your input screen. It is also helpful, but not necessary, to add it to your display fields. Let's open a sample Pay Categories job we have created so that you can see how it looks. You will see that we have added a Pay Category column to the display area, and it is populated with categories that were assigned to the different types of steel in this job. Typically, as you input your job, you will assign a pay category. You can also easily assign a pay category using the Global Edit feature. Let's click on the Shape header to sort by shape. You will see that we have several 14 by 370s that have not yet been assigned to a category. Let's highlight them all by holding down the Shift key. Now we'll go to the Production Control drop-down menu, select Global Edit, and then select Global Edit Selected. Place a check mark next to the Pay Category field and enter 5 in the field or select it from the drop-down list. Click the OK button, and these items will be updated and reflect the change in the display window. All other steel has already been assigned a category, so let's take a look at the reports that are available. From the Production Control menu, select Reports, or hit Ctrl-R on your keyboard. Let's leave everything unfiltered and click the Make Report button. In the Report Progress window, let's scroll down and select the Pay Category Report and the Pay Category Summary Report. Click the View Report button, and both reports will be generated in Crystal Reports. The Pay Category Report gives you a breakdown of each category listing the main piece, quantity, shape, dimensions, length, grade, unit weight, assembled weight, and price, based on what you set for that pay category. Keep in mind that all accessory pieces of a main piece will be in the same pay category as the main piece. The Pay Category Summary Report gives you a quick one-line summary of each category, along with the unit price, quantity, assembled weight, and total calculated cost for that category, as well as the total cost for the entire job. These reports can also be filtered to provide useful completion information for progress billings. Our Report Progress window is still open, so let's click on the Change Filters in the upper right corner. You can now filter by any of these fields, including date shipped or station completed. For now, let's assume all of Sequence 1 has been completed. So we'll click the Edit button next to the Sequence field and select Sequence 1 only. Now when we click the Make Report button and select the Pay Category Reports, we will get those reports only on Sequence 1 and could bill accordingly. The Detail Report also provides excellent backup to accompany progress billings. We have now covered all of the basic components of the Production Control module. In the first video, we covered maintenance and data entry. In the second video, we discussed basic combining runs, reports, and load tracking. Finally, in this video, we covered intermediate shipping, piece tracking, exporting our data back into a CIS2 model, and pay categories. You should now have a sufficient understanding of the power and functionality of this module and be able to put it to work for your company. More advanced training videos will be available covering combining, barcoding, accounting and tracking, and the job flow process. We hope that you will take advantage of these and further your education and capabilities with FabSuite.